You take it so you don't have to kind of like lean or be uncomfortable. I'll do the side.
Hi, Barbara.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How about yourself?
Well, I'm very depressed about the politics of the country.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well,
Very depressed.
yeah,
I mean,
really. I know. Well, we've lost a we don't have the judiciary, a separate arm of the judiciary anymore. It's gotten so corrupt.
right. Yeah. And Eileen, whatever, Cannon, the woman who just handed Trump a gift.
Yeah.
If Trump gets elected, he will pay her back with something big.
Well, we know that.
Of course, and he's going to pay Musk back too.
Yeah.
Yep.
We know that. We
He's
know
a
that.
transactional guy, and that's the way it's
Yeah.
going to work.
Yeah.
And as long as he's doing it in his role as president, he can take all the tips, no bribery, but all the tips that he wants.
So,
At least they nailed Bob Menendez finally.
yeah, of course.
Bob Menendez tried to blame his wife for the stuff too. It's just unbelievable. These men have no ethics at all.
No.
They'll toss their own spouse under the bus.
Hi, Ramona.
Not only tossing her under the bus, but the poor woman is being treated for breast cancer. I mean, she's so vulnerable, is what
He doesn't care.
No, he doesn't. Pretty sad state of affairs.
Yeah.
Remarkably terrible. Rabbi Astor and Sharon are at my house right now.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
say that again?
Rabbi Astor and Sharon
Oh,
and Avi and Avi's two kids are at my house right now. And Avi his wife is divorcing him.
Oh,
I gathered that when you said Avi and his two kids.
Yeah. It's very, very sad. Very, very sad. But it's good that Ilana and Avi are getting together because they were good friends in Schechter. They were good friends in high school. He's got
Jerry,
two-
is Avi coming to town?
He is in
Avi's in Waterford right now,
Oh, really?
but
Yeah,
he's flying home tomorrow
he's flying back?
to Barcelona. Yeah.
Oh. I wonder if Jonathan knew that he was here.
I don't know. Well, we didn't find out till very late. And then we said, come. And they came.
Huh. Was he in West Haven and all around town?
He was with his parents in New Haven.
Yeah. New Haven.
Rachel,
Westville.
your brother
What?
rented an apartment from my brother in New York City.
Wow.
Really? Well, the chance of wanting what?
The world is so small, it's unbelievable.
It is. Everything is connected. Everything. But you find out even years later.
It's crazy.
Yeah, well, that was 7 years ago, right? Jerry?
Long time ago.
I mean, my brother rented multiple apartments, so I don't know which one it was.
This was the one in Lower Manhattan.
Oh, so like right after 9/11.
Very possibly, yes. My brother was in a nursing home and we were renting out his apartment. Hi, Sherry and Rick, is that you? Both of you are in the picture. You guys can turn on your camera. I wouldn't mind it if you turned on your camera, Sherry.
Or if there's some music you want to talk.
Or unmute if you want to talk, right?
Well, he wants
Okay.
to.
Hi. There you go, good. Hi, Sherry.
Hey, hi, Jerry.
Although I think my photograph looks better than I do.
Hi,
It's okay, we're not passing judgment.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
my
Thank
friend
you.
who
It's a supportive community.
took my photograph and gave me a full head of hair.
That's right. That's right. Stick with
Very
that.
funny. It was very funny. Very funny. Yeah, made me look like a movie star or something.
Irene, how's day one of being 80?
Actually, I don't know. I have so many details that I'm taking care of. I can't seem to get out of my own way. And it's just I've been going nonstop today, but only accomplished a minute amount of what I had planned.
That's what tomorrow is for.
Oh, Ramona, I have to tell you something. I
Oh.
found a DVD of the movie that Dana Klein and I made in 1996
Oh, my
called The
gosh.
Jews of New London.
Oh, I remember that.
And I have Your Father's Story is in that movie.
I
It's
remember.
really, really nice. So we're gonna try and put it up on YouTube and then we can
Oh, that would be great.
very good showing of it.
Let us know if it goes up.
Yeah, I will. I will.
I remember watching that when you first showed it.
Right, right. And you know, it was heartwarming. Dana, we partially uploaded it yesterday and I sent it to her. She said, "Oh my God, Jerry." And then she went and she found her notebooks from when we were doing all the interviews and she was all emotional about everything. Yeah. And we had two clarinet players playing the music for the film. But it was a very nice homemade movie, you know? I mean, it wasn't the great high production values that are in my movies now, but it was really nice stories and Dana did a good job with the interviews, not with the best.
No, that was Wolf.
Huh?
It was Wolf.
It was Wolf, no. All right, we have a few more minutes till we get to Jewish time and then we'll start.
Jerry, thank you for the last couple of nights. Have been very enjoyable, informative, very good.
Thank you, thank you. I've enjoyed them myself. Yeah, I would enjoy bringing people to Israel much more than doing this, but I definitely love doing things like this.
I remember the
s-
first trip with Musia's family that we went to see. I mean, it was just a remarkable experience.
Seeing Lucia's family, they lived in Upper Afula. I'll never forget it. Yes, it was such a warm. It was amazing. And it was amazing the energy, you know, our country right now is being worked up against immigration. But the energy in Israel from the immigrants who are called Olim in Hebrew, those who have come up, the energy in the country from all the waves of Olim is just remarkable. It's like where it got its spirit from. And America got its spirit from immigrants. But somehow we want to forget that and keep people out now, when we really should invite people in.
I don't
All right,
usually,
Rebecca Reinhardt just sent a note 2 minutes ago. Hi, everyone. Sorry for the late send. Here's the link to the final session of the mission to Israel. So she sent it out late. So I'm afraid we're going to not get a lot of people, but we'll do what we can do.
it's their loss.
It's their loss, right? It's their loss. Okay. Let's start. Timeline bevakasha. אני לא יודע איך לעשות את זה.
אז share screen, אתה יודע איך לעשות את זה. So. This is not what we want.
About to be putting on.
Don't go with that yet.
You want this?
Okay, yeah. Timeline is further down, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to appreciate what we're talking about here. We're talking about Tel Aviv, which is in the center of the country. It's this little area right here is the city boundaries. But as you can see, this is a population density map. And you can see that the center of the country is where the largest, densest population of Israel is. And the second area is the area around Jerusalem. And the third area is Haifa. And then there's a little bit of Tiberias there. But this is sparsely populated. This is very sparsely populated. And this is the Negev, extremely sparsely populated. But you'll see around the Gaza Strip is a population, not dark brown, but not the super light brown of the Golan or the Negev, but the brown. So there's population here, except for some areas here, which, by the way, is where a lot of the kibbutzim were, which are sparsely populated. This gives you an idea also with circles of population density. And I chose this map because it'll show you the relationship of Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and distances. Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, Tel Aviv to Gaza. Almost the same distance. Slightly longer to the border of Gaza, but Sderot is right on the corner of Gaza. Ashkelon is very near to Gaza and took a lot of missiles. And Ashdod also took missiles. This is Rishon LeZion. It's considered a suburb of Tel Aviv. Now, all of these
Just want to
areas
clarify rockets, not missiles.
rockets, yes, rockets. Rishon LeZion, meaning the first to Zion, is where the very first vineyards were set up by the Rothschilds. And then the rest of the vineyards were set up along the coast here. There's a coastal road. This center road here continues right through Gaza, right down the center. And this road goes north. And then if you want to go to Damascus, you get on this road. And then you go up to the Golan Heights and go through the Golan Heights to Damascus. But we're going to talk today about Tel Aviv-Yafo.
Since you mentioned Damascus, do you want to mention the 3 Syrian girls who were killed?
Tell me about it.
There were 3 Syrian girls who were, I believe, accidentally killed by Israeli rockets, and in retribution, Lebanon sent over 100 rockets to the north in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous border right now. Very, very dangerous. And there's a lot of arguments about whether Israel should endure a war with Hezbollah which would be a real bloody war with a lot of damage on the home front, or if they should try to avoid the war. And it's a big issue, very big issue. Oops,
Look at my. Yes.
okay. So here we are. Time. I don't want to do that yet. I'm going to do the timeline first. So the ancient city is Jaffa. And Tel Aviv was founded when they ran out of room in Jaffa. Jaffa was a small, actually walled-in city, and there were orange groves outside of the city walls. And of course, you all remember the Jaffa oranges. That was like the pro-Israel patriotic thing my mother would do in the supermarket, was buy Jaffa oranges and bring them home. And they were thick-skinned with a very large navel top, and everybody bought Jaffa oranges. But the Jaffa orange groves went into the cycling system of land, which is you plant it, you harvest it, and then you develop it as real estate. So the real estate development took over. Okay. I don't go with ancient history here. I start with 1799, when the French conquer it, and then the British oust the French, and then we have Muslim control of the city, and then we have the beginning of settlement from Europe in Palestine, and the boats landed in Jaffa. That's where the population of Israel from Europe reached the shores of Israel. Was the port of Jaffa, not Ashkelon, not Ashdod, not the port in North Tel Aviv, which was built after they stopped letting the Jews use the port of Jaffa. But they came to Jaffa. Somebody else ended up in Jaffa, a biblical character. Who knows what his name was? Hint, it begins with a J. Jonah. Jonah took off from Jaffa on his ill-fated trip and got swallowed by a whale and spit out. That happened in Jaffa. The Greek mythology of Andromeda is also tied to Jaffa, because the queen of the story, Cassiopeia, was from Jaffa. And Andromeda was tied to a rock right outside of Jaffa. And Poseidon didn't like Andromeda. And in the end, Perseus rescued Andromeda. And the stone that Andromeda was tied to and abandoned, you can see from the shore of Jaffa. So we have Jews coming as early as 1838, and then we have Sephardic Jews, Ashkenazi Jews. They're all landing on boats. A German colony was established. The city walls were demolished. The population was 14,000, and the railway starts operating, and Shar Zion, the earliest hospital there, opens. And then in 1892, a train railway was completed between Jaffa and Jerusalem. And by 1897, the population was over 33,000. Now, the walls were torn down, the walls were demolished, but there just wasn't enough room for the population explosion that was happening. So they founded another city near Tel Aviv. But even though they founded the city of Tel Aviv, the port of Jaffa was still the place where new immigrants to Israel landed. And it was the subject of a comedy routine, which I'm going to show you, that illustrates, and it happened in our country too, how each subsequent wave of immigrants were dismissed as horrible and terrible by the immigrants that had came before. So a little story to illustrate that just from my own personal life. My grandmother's family came to America in the late 1890s. Everyone except my grandmother. My grandmother came to America nearly 20 years later, because she had stayed in Europe to take care of her father. And when she got off the boat in New York City, everybody looked down on her and said, "Oh my God, she's dressed like a peasant," because they had been in America for 20 years and they looked and felt like we made it as Americans. And here's my grandmother getting off the boat and they're saying, oh my God, she's a peasant. And so let's watch this very funny video. I'll let you do it.
Quick.
Fischer! Vodka!
That song is the international.
Polziska! Eretz Yisrael Zishka! Oy, po beretz chemda tavod! Titgashemna kal hatikva! Hey! בוא נחיה ובוא היי זישקה! היי! אידים שתים את זה! זישקה
أحمد شوف مين هذا؟ هذا اليهود اللي عاملين بابور اللي جابهم.
Wladek, Jędek, chodź tutaj! Ach, jesteśmy w Eretz Yisrael! Unser Land, Eretz Yisrael! O, Litwo, ojczyzno moja, jesteś jak zdrowie! Ach, Władek, Eretz Yisrael!
Ну, Гриша, jeszcze pszeście. Gefilte fish im sukar.
Ах, черт твою холера!
Инал дин бабор или джабум. مريوما ארץ ישראל, ארץ הקודש, מריומה ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו שהחיינו והקימנו והגענו אוי, ברוך אתה מקבץ ישראל, מחזר מהסעוד מדגלה מהצפון ומחווה ברוך אתה מקבץ ישראל שלום ולובסר, ברוך אתה ארץ הקודש, אוי, מריומה, ארץ הקודש,
No, Wladek, co ty mówisz? Ja nie mogę ma woda być córaka zoti.
No,
עכשיו כבר אי אפשר יהיה ללכת לשום מקום. מלא ריח של זחוק, ושום, ופלאפל, וחילבה, וכל מיני חולרה. שאני מוגם עבודה בצורה כזאת. פריצי! פריצי, wo bist du? Komm doch, Fritzi! Papa, ich bin doch da, Papa! Ach, Peppi! Das ist doch Eretz Israel, שלנו, Palästina! Eretz Israel, unsere Papi! Wo ist der Professor Aberbuch? Wo ist Professor Salzbuch? Und wer ist der Doktor Salzbuch? Dr. Aberbuch. Also Dr. Aberbuch. Dankeschön. Shabanu Baaretz. Papi? Ja? Sie Palästina? Ja. Aber זה הכל חול, פאפה. אנחנו נבריח השממה, du Dummkopf.
תראה את היקס. Dankeschön, bitteschön, bitteschön, Dankeschön. זה דוקטור, זה פרופסור, וזה...
So now you see the Yemenite Jews making fun of the Yekers, the German Jews that come.
عندين بابور الجبهم يكبوت Dankeschön, bitteschön, Fritzi ومريتيا.
Hey, Jacqueline, Jojo, Albert, nous sommes à Israël.
מתחף גרמפר. עכשיו זה מדינה שלנו. זה דגל שלנו. מה שאתה רוצה שלנו. ז'וז'ו, ז'קלין, viens ici. Nous sommes à Israël.
Na, Fritzi, was sagst du denn? Marokkaner.
עכשיו יהיה סקנדלים וסקנדלים כל יום.
keine Tarbut, keine Nimbus.
הנה העדין בבורי לג'אבום.
ג'וקשווילי, מירשווילי, זבטשווילי. אנחנו בישראל. אין קג"ב, אין כב"ד. חיות, בוברת, חמדת אבות, תתגשם. תפסיקו עם השירה הזאת! אתם חושבים שאם תשירו תקבלו פה טלוויזיה בלי מכס?
רגרד גרמפר, רגרד לגרוזין, לכל אלה עולים חדשים מרוסיה.
56!
בטח, עכשיו יקבלו מספר לבן, סיכון לזוגות צעירים, מה שאתה רק רוצה. אנחנו פה הקמנו המדינה, אנחנו סבלנו, אתם לא מתביישים אתם? ענדין בבורי לז'בקו. ביישו.
אנחנו פה ישבנו במעברות. אנחנו פה ייבשנו ביצות, שפכנו דם קנטון.
Das ist ein Skandal. Das war große Schweinerei.
אנחנו פה בארץ נתנו קצת בוותיקים, יא?
בדיוק, ובילארציה מה קיבלנו?
יא? אנחנו פה אכלנו, דרק אכלנו, יא? דרק מקליבה.
מקליבה.
יא?
מספר לבן, טלוויזיה, שיכון לצעירים.
מה זה פה? Das ist doch eine Schweinerei, oder wird noch einmal?
אתם עושים פה ברדק מישראל. עזוב.
אנחנו היינו סיירים בוולוג'ה! אנחנו היינו סיירים בוולוג'ה! ובבאקה אל-גרבייה!
וגם באותיה אל-חפיר!
יא! הניל, das ist... איפה אתה היית ב-67? איפה אתה היית ב-47? איפה אתה היית ב-48? איפה היית ב-32? איפה היית ב-28? איפה היית ב-14? איפה היית? תתביישו! אבל אנחנו סבלנו פה 40 שנה במעברות! מספר כחול! טלוויזיה! ראית זאת? אנחנו בנינו המדינה וזה בא. תתביישו! אל תקל!
Go back to the camera, we'll stop share. So there you saw a comedy routine about immigration to Israel. And it was filmed on the shores of Jaffa because that's where all the boats came and landed, including the boats that brought the timbers that built the temple in Jerusalem. So it's an ancient city, and it was where everyone came to reach Israel, to reach Palestine. It was a difficult thing. Where do we? No, I want the pictures.
It's all in the same place.
On the same place.
Yeah.
Scroll down. You can do it.
Let me just get this thing down. Yes.
Okay, up. So, when Mayor Dizengoff said, we've got to bust out of Jaffa, he took a group of people and he went up to literally the sand dunes north of Jaffa, and he distributed deeds to building lots in what would become Tel Aviv. And his name was Mayor Dizengoff. And there's a Dizengoff Street now, and he became the mayor of Tel Aviv. So the mayor of Tel Aviv was Mayor Dizengoff, and he had a horse. He had a horse that was a mare, a female horse, and he named the horse Meirah. So there's a whole series of Mayor Dizengoff, the mayor of Tel Aviv, who had a mare whose name was Meirah. And it's a joke to this day. This is Dizengoff Center now. So you go from that to that. Okay, now let's go back to the timeline for a second. You've heard about Arab riots in Hebron, and there were also Arab riots before 1929 in Jaffa. And Jaffa was a center of Arab resistance to the Zionist effort to create a state. And even though the two cities were right next to each other, when the United Nations created the partition plan, the line between Palestine and Israel went right in between Tel Aviv and Jaffa. Tel Aviv was going to be part of the Jewish state, and Jaffa was going to be part of the state of Palestine. All right. Now, when Israel declared independence, and Ben Gurion did it in Tel Aviv, the first thing that happened was that the Irgun attacked Jaffa and thereby conquered it, and it clearly became part of the new state of Israel. 2 years later, Tel Aviv attached Jaffa, and the municipality became Tel Aviv Yaffa. Here is the history of Tel Aviv. And even before Mayor Dizengoff formally founded the city in 1909, the Yemenite Jews that had come set up a little sort of village north of Jaffa called Karamat Temanim. And in the 1930s, the Bauhaus architects in Germany were declared degenerate Jewish architects And they fled to Tel Aviv, where they established a museum and they built a white city, which are all low, three-story buildings with curved lines and curved balconies. And that neighborhood, just around 12 years ago, maybe 14, became a UNESCO World Heritage Site because it's the greatest concentration of Bauhaus architecture in the world. Shalom Tower was built in 1965. It was the tallest building between Paris and Japan. And in 1968, Israel hosted the Paralympics in Tel Aviv. In the 1970s, the first major Russian language newspaper began to publish. The Tel Aviv Cinematheque was open, and Yarkon Park along the banks of the Yarkon was established. And this man, Shlomo Lahat, became the mayor, and he was the mayor forever until the current mayor. The importance of being the mayor of Tel Aviv cannot be overstated, because in Israel, governance on a local level is by city or by regional council, like county government. So the city governments have a great deal of power. The Moetzot, the county governments, have a great deal of power. There are no states, and the mayors of the major cities, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and Haifa, wield extraordinary power. And that's shown in Haifa, where buses and trains run on Shabbat. It's shown in Tel Aviv, where there's an entire secular culture, although they just recently broke through with Shabbat buses. And it's shown in Jerusalem, where there is no Shabbat buses, and it's a much more conservative city. I'm going to now go to a video of Tel Aviv. This is the Neve Tzedek neighborhood. This is in South Tel Aviv. Do I have to share it? It's being shared. So here's a little stroll through Neve Tzedek, one of the first neighborhoods in Tel Aviv. It's now known as South. You see the wall murals, mural art. These aren't covered up. These are intentionally preserved. Carmel Market. There's nothing they did there. This was filmed when it's pretty empty. There have been times when we walk through this market, shoulder to shoulder crowd.
بوكر انا علام احلى بوكر ابي بوكر
Now we're going to.
Jerry, we
go-
couldn't hear you. What year was this filmed?
Probably 5 or 6 years ago.
No, it's recently.
It's recently?
A couple of
Oh, yeah. It was done recently. We'll get to it.
In the past 9 months.
2020. Oh, yeah. You see, there's parking on both sides of the street. Have you ever tried driving down the street with them nuts? Bike lanes are a big thing in Israel, especially in Tel Aviv, because it's very flat. When you walk down the street, there's Bolt, that's the big delivery service. And this is one of innumerable coffee houses that you'll find in Tel Aviv. Now, on the one hand, it's lovely. They're sitting outside, they're having coffee. On the other hand, the problem is Israelis are still heavy smokers. So you're not allowed to smoke inside the store, but you are allowed to smoke outside the store. So all of these tables here, people can sit and smoke. So when there are walkers like me that suffer from asthma and cigarette smoke is a trigger like you can't believe, I'm often miserable walking through Tel Aviv because all of the outside seats are smokers. And when I stop to have coffee, I have to go inside, which on hot days is not bad, but on,
Even in restaurants, people smoke at the table.
Right.
especially on them.
yeah. And I'm going to take us to the last, and we're gonna walk up to Dizengoff Square, where there's a memorial to people who were killed in October 2nd. So here you are walking up to Dizengoff Square. This is Dizengoff Circle. These are great restaurants. Great restaurants. And you see this sign here? Ella's gonna tell you about that.
Okay, so this one, it says help 136 hostages or kidnapped. And when there were the 3 hostages that got killed by the Israeli army, what they did is they took a huge sheet and wrote on it with like food leftovers, help 3 hostages. So the Israelis would see it and know that they are there and will come and rescue them. And it did not end well. But what the people of the hostages families forum did is they put these signs, they adjusted it to the number of hostages that was then 136, and they did the same kind of thing, and the whole country still till today is covered with huge sheets and posters that says help 106 hostages.
And this is a memorial to the people that were killed. This is not Hostage Square. This is the memorial. Dizengoff Square was taken over as a memorial to the people that were killed on October 7th. And this fountain used to have an Agam creation around the border of the fountain. Agam is a man, a painter, an Israeli painter, who would paint on little vertical triangles. So if you looked at the picture from one side, you would see one painting. If you looked at it right in front of you, you would see another painting. And if you looked at it from the other side, you would see a third painting. And there used to be artwork like that around this square. And you see there are photos, there are drawings, there are little animals. And there are stickers.
And Jerry,
It's
you
like-
said this is not Hostage Square, is that right?
This is not Hostage Square. This is the
Yes.
memorial to the people that were killed.
It's Dizengoff Square.
Thank you. It's Dizengoff? That's what I thought. Okay.
Okay, now. The next thing I'm going to show you is we're going to switch to Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut in Israel. Yom HaZikaron I spent at Kibbutz Nir Oz, and we're going to do that now. Start sharing, share screen. And go here again.
It's not here, just take the bar down. Oh, let's see, let's get that one. It's this. Oh, the next one is
Okay. So this is Kibbutz Nir Oz. My cousin's kibbutz. You see a burned out house. Okay. This is where my cousin and his comrade were killed. This enclosure is where they would store garbage cans. And how they discovered that my cousin was killed was they pulled bullets out of these bullet holes. And on the surface of the bullets was the DNA of my cousin and the other person who was killed. They both were shot in the head. They were able to identify the part of the body that was there. These are the yahrzeit candles that were set up for Yom HaZikaron at Kibbutz Nir Oz. That's how many people from Kibbutz Nir Oz were killed. This is Erica Weiner and Marcy Oselewski. They came with me to Kibbutz Nir Oz. This is Aviv's oldest son, Ofri. This is Aviv's mother. And this is my cousin, Aviv's father-in-law, Liat's father. These are the two graves of the two
Jerry,
people.
what are they wearing around their necks? Are those rifles?
No, they're bags.
You can't see it because of the purse they're wearing, but it's one of the dog tags.
That's a dog tag that she's wearing there. He might be carrying a rifle. Ofri might be carrying a rifle.
I think.
Naama is not carrying a rifle. These are the two graves, and I need to explain to you why they're very different. The grave on the left is a traditional military grave, because this man was buried, his body was found. This grave on the right is my cousin Aviv's grave. It's not a traditional military grave, and it will never be a traditional military grave because Liat, his wife, my cousin's daughter, wants to cremate Aviv's remains when they are finally repatriated to Israel, and she will spread the ashes on the fields of Kibbutz Nir Oz, and she'll actually take some ashes to India, where he went for his post-army year abroad, and where he brought his family to live for half a year.
Go here to the theater.
Oh, okay.
I never heard of Israel allowing cremation. Is that new?
It's not easy to do, but if you insist on it and you're not being buried in an Orthodox kibbutz, then you can do it. This is my cousin Chaya, Yehuda's wife, Liat's mother. And this is the man who came to the hospital 17 hours after Liat reached the hospital after she returned to Israel to tell her that her husband had been killed. I'm going to let you listen to this explanation. If you can't hear it well enough, you can ask me, I'll stop and I'll summarize what's going on.
The Army has two groups of people who are in contact with the families of hostages. One group is for Army people and one group is for civilians. We had someone in contact with us for Liat because she was a civilian. He was Mayor was in contact with Aviv's family because Aviv is a soldier. And since Liat wasn't around, he wasn't in contact with her.
Are you the person that came to Liat after she came back?
Yes, I was waiting in the hospital when she come back at 4 o'clock in the morning. And unfortunately, we had to notify her 12 hours after that Aviv is not with us anymore. So it was very high
to very
happiness
low.
that she come back, and then we were very down. So it was very emotional for me, from the family, and I'm escorting them since the 8th of October.
Really?
With Talma and Iftar and Ronan.
Okay. And have you done this with many other families or just with the
I have
Atzili?
another family, but this is as part of my Army Reserve.
If you're Army Reserve duty.
Yes.
And do you live here on Nir Oz? No.
No, I live nearby, at like 20 kilometers from here. But,
Was your community attacked during the attack?
no, we had some sirens and we had to go to the shelter, but we didn't get attacked. We are quite isolated, so they didn't want to waste the mission on us.
Okay.
But we have friends and families that was involved.
You lost people that you knew. Okay, thank you very much.
This is the memorial for Aviv. That's the burned out houses around there. Memorial was not put up by the kibbutz, it was actually put up by essentially the county, the Moatzah. And there's a lot of debate now in Israel about how to appropriately memorialize the victims of October 7th. And to stop here and go back to the beginning. So you know that Jewish time always starts the evening before. That's from the Chumash. Vayiher vayiboker yom hasheni yom hashlishi. It was evening and it was morning the first day, evening and morning the second day. So Memorial Day starts the evening before and goes through the day. And then right after that is Independence Day, which starts in the evening and goes through the day. And I came back from near Oz and had a little bit of dinner in the hotel I was in, which was housing evacuees from both the north and the south. And then I went to this demonstration. This is Kirkar Habima Square, the theater square.
And that's the hostages square.
And this is the hostage square. And there was a big rally there, and I will show you that. You sure? So. Okay, so. Tel Aviv. The joke that I told you when we started was the three major cities in Israel are known for their character. Haifa is where you work, Jerusalem is where you pray, and Tel Aviv is where you play. Playing right now is not a big thing. Every restaurant, every coffee shop, many of the merchants will have photos of their employees or their relatives or their patrons who were murdered or were kidnapped and are being held hostage. Tel Aviv is perhaps the most intense area for that type of memorialization because most of the attendees at the Nova Music Festival came from Tel Aviv. So a lot of Tel Avivians were killed and kidnapped, a lot. So of all the cities, well, I only walked through Jerusalem, Haifa, and Tel Aviv, but of those three cities, Tel Aviv was the most intensely memorialized city. And when we drove down to Nir Oz, we passed by the Nova Music Festival site. And there's an ongoing debate and discussion now about how to properly memorialize the victims of October 7th. And there's no consensus yet about how that will happen. Stop sharing. We're in stop sharing. Okay, so יש עוד תמונות שאני עושה? אין עוד. Okay. I want to talk about the pride part of the city. Tel Aviv is one of the most gay-friendly cities in the world. And they have a gigantic pride parade every year. The gay community tried to have a pride parade in Jerusalem. They succeeded, but there was violent attacks by ultra-Orthodox Jews against the participants in the gay pride parade in Jerusalem. One of the participants was arrested and he was let out of jail. And the next year, he again attacked and murdered a participant in the pride parade in Jerusalem. So what makes Tel Aviv unique? Tel Aviv is unique in the Middle East and North Africa in that it's the top city in the region. It's among the top 50 cities in the world. But the reason it's amongst the top 50 is its brain power. The number of high-tech companies in Tel Aviv is unusual. The number of high-tech companies in Israel is unusual. Google acquired Waze a few years ago for $14 billion, and they're about to acquire the Wiz, which is a cybersecurity software company, for $24 billion. The human resource is what makes Tel Aviv special. It is, quote unquote, the natural resource of the country is the human brain. But nearly 1/3 of the country, the Orthodox Jews, go to yeshivas where they do not learn math or science. So Israel is essentially letting itself succeed with one arm tied behind its back by all of these young people who do not study math and science. And the big issue now in Israel is the drafting of Orthodox Jews. And the biggest demonstrations about that happen in Tel Aviv, because Tel Aviv is where the Kiryat is, the Israeli Pentagon. The military headquarters of Tel Aviv is actually right across the street from the Tel Aviv Museum. And it's across the street from ANU, from the Diaspora Museum. And all the demonstrations calling for the drafting of Orthodox men and women take place in front of the Kiryat. So Tel Aviv is in fact the capital of Israel. Jerusalem is the ancient capital of Israel. Jerusalem is the seat of government. There's no denying that. But Tel Aviv is where all the action is. And as I said, with the exception of 3 or 4 embassies, all the embassies are in Tel Aviv. All the embassies are in Tel Aviv. And all of the major demonstrations take place in Tel Aviv. And Israel is in danger now, not just because of Gaza and the attacks from Hezbollah. Israel is in danger now because people are fed up with the ultra-Orthodox having controls over the powers of government. And they're using those controls for their benefit. So while the entire country is economically going down, the amount of dollars going to yeshivas is going up. Way up, way up. And the amount of dollars going to school systems within the Green Line per capita is half of the educational dollars going to schools on the West Bank. So there's terrible tensions in Israel now. And Tel Aviv is sort of like the last redoubt. It's remained a progressive, secular, enlightened city. And it's a spectacular city. It has the beautiful Tayelet, it has beautiful beaches, it has wonderful restaurants, wonderful cafes, and there's an art museum, there's an opera house, there's a concert hall, there's a Bima theater. It's where I'm so happy that I finished the missions. It's just a city that feels alive. And you're there to experience the city. because it's a young city, 1909. I mean, you walk around Jerusalem and you visit places that are 2,000 years old. That's not what you do in Tel Aviv. In Tel Aviv, you visit places that are 20 or 30 or 40 or 60 or 80 years old, but they're alive with people. And if any of you
Barry, you
get to
didn't tell the most popular joke about Tel Aviv.
tell it,
The city bird.
tell it.
So who's the bird for the city of Tel Aviv? The crane.
Crane. The crane, because
every
the
time
city
you
is,
go,
the city is building. You walk around and all you see are cranes. That's the,
I think these days the cranes have migrated to Jerusalem.
yeah, there are a lot of building.
in
Yeah,
Jerusalem,
a lot of
a
building in
lot.
Jerusalem.
Many cranes all over.
It's the national bird now. So thank you for joining me. I hope the 3 hours plus that we've spent over the last 3 days have been good, and I hope we can get a group to finally go to Israel on a Federation mission. Barbara and Irene and Marcia have been on missions. So if any of you want to say something about the missions before we wrap it up, I would love to hear it. Barbara, you want to say something? You're not there anymore. Okay.
Well, I would just like to make a quick correction. Sorry, Marcia. The square that what the video was from that Jerry showed was Habima Square, and the Hostages Square is
Rabin Square.
No, it's in front of Tel Aviv Art Museum.
Oh, okay.
In front of the Tel Aviv Art Museum, which is a little ways away.
But I
Just-
thought that first square, I thought it is Dizengoff Square. That's what I had heard. That's where
No, the
hos-
first was Dizengoff. The second was not the Hostages Square. It
It
was
was
Habima.
Habima Square.
But it's not far from the Hostages Square. The Hostages Square is on Tel Aviv Art Museum.
Okay, so Barbara, you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. Well, I went on a mission. It was a very long time ago already. It was the mission, the Bethel mission for the time Carl Astor
Right.
was rabbi at Bethel. And I remember being a little skeptical because I'm not someone who usually likes to travel with a bus of 40 people. But I found the mission was really wonderful. But of course, things have changed a lot in Israel since I went. And that was the second time I had been to Israel, but maybe there'll be a third, we'll see. But things clearly have gotten, was wonderful to see the all the new buildings and everything. So thanks for that. And I'm certainly aware of how good the technology is in Israel. It's a shame to hear that it may be going downhill. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is. Marcia, you want to say something about you? You were on one mission.
I just recommend going. It was wonderful. I've been there so many times since then that it's hard to split when I was with you and when I'm there on my own. So, but the trips are great. Jerry really knows his stuff, and he knows how to give you a tour that you will not forget. It's really wonderful.
Irene, you can have the last word, but unmute. You're the senior in this group. Okay, you're unmuted.
My memories of going with you, Jerry, twice are my treasures and my riches. And the second time I was in the Maine woods. It was just amazing. And even the hospital, one of the saddest memories I had was when we were visiting a hospital. That hospital had better technology than what I worked in. I mean, it was just remarkable. But there was a patient there who had been injured in a bombing in a voting place. and you could hear in another room people clapping when the news was on. I mean, that's a memory that just was so destructive. But in terms of the good times, and even one time when I kind of joined somebody who was going into town, for the stores, I guess I didn't report off to somebody, and that I was with somebody else that was going, and they came looking for me. That's how that's how closely everyone is watched. And our guide on the bus, and I don't remember his name, but it was just such an experience of a lifetime. And when on my second, I think it was my second mission, that Jeremy Booty and Rich Pascal were on that mission too. And I didn't have a roommate, before the first time I went. Pat and Musia were there. But it's like and there were a lot of, I remember Suzanne Weissman was there, and it was just the experiences of a lifetime.
Yeah, well, we really try to take good care of people, and we follow people, and nobody has come back ever saying that it was not a good trip. They all come back saying it was much better than I expected it to be, it was phenomenal. And share the
Also,
word.
and kind of climbing up, to go to a graduation. We actually climbed up the mountain, did not take the lift to the top where the graduation was, of the IDF
Masada.
classes.
Yeah, it wasn't a graduation, it was a military induction of officers, yeah. And we hiked up the trail to Masada, and we were there for that very special moment. Yeah, we didn't do things in these 3 days like Masada or Beit Shan, but believe me, it's an amazingly tiny country. It's about the size of New Jersey, but its diversity goes far beyond New Jersey, far beyond New Jersey.
And also, we visited with the Ayelet on one of the trips,
Yes.
and the Marin Bat Mitzvah also happened.
Yes.
Going way
Yeah.
back. What year was that?
I don't know.
I mean, my son had his bar mitzvah there, and we were there, that group. It was Roger Brooks's daughter, Gabe Stern's son, and my son, and we were there during the Second Intifada. And there were only two communities in Israel during the Second Intifada: the Atlanta Jewish Federation and the Jewish Federation of Eastern Connecticut. And it was really quite remarkable. It was the first Intifada, not the second, the first. Okay, everybody. It was great being with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry.
See you around.
And don't forget, we're also recruiting for a real mission to Italy. If anybody wants to go with Jerry this
There'll
winter.
be a featured story in the August edition of the Jewish Leader about the trip to Italy. It'll be
I
an
went to
amazing trip.
the synagogue in Italy.
Well, there's many synagogues in Italy. Which one did you go
Yeah.
to?
I just remember.
Okay.
Jerry, do you remember on the trip when we almost lost Carol Sandru?
Yes, we
And
didn't
then-
almost. We left her behind.
Well, no, we didn't. We didn't get that far because somebody brought her to us in Akko. Do you
Yes.
remember? Who
Yeah.
was it? Like it was like a whole nother group of people who
Yeah.
found her and
Yeah.
brought her to. It was amazing.
Carol was one of the more difficult participants I've ever had, because she was always frustrated. She never quite knew where she was or where she was supposed to be. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you again,
Bye.
Jerry. Thank you, Ella. And we will see you next year in Jerusalem.
Next year in
Amen.
Jerusalem.
Amen.
And may all of them come back very, very soon.
Oh, God,
Yes.
please.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Now.
I agree.